to the JD Power Travel and Hospitality Podcast. I'm Sarah Baggett with the Marketing Department, and I'm joined today, as always, with our subject matter experts, Michael Taylor and Andrea Stokes, as well as Azari Jones, our new Travel and Hospitality Intelligence Analyst. Welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Well, today I wanted to get started with what I think is some very exciting news. The results of the 2024 Airline Satisfaction Study have released. So, Mike, I want to throw it over to you. Tell us everything.
Okay. Well, everybody wants to know what the rankings are. They could care less about the methodology. So I'll just start off with the headline, is that we have three categories. And the first in business class winner this year is Delta Airlines. So they beat out JetBlue for the first time since we've had this particular award. And in the premium economy segment was also Delta. So they're kind of a double award winner. They beat out Alaska in second place there. And as well, pretty, I wouldn't say always, but a really consistent winner in the economy, basic economy class has been Southwest. So Southwest is the winner there.
Very exciting stuff. Did we see any interesting trends in this year's data or anything you can share with us about that?
Well, the one thing is, we're continuing to have extraordinary demand on the airline side of things. And that's created a lot of problems. We still have a shortage of actual aircraft, shortage of actual pilots, which means that the load factor or the percentage of seats that have been filled on any particular aircraft is still quite historically high. That means a lot of different things. One of that is crowding. And as I like to tell our clients, the flight attendants are just simply herding more cats than they used to. But one of the big factors that allowed Delta to win two categories and Southwest to win its category again is people. They had each one of those or both of those airlines had fantastic people scores. Now, Southwest has had great people scores since the get-go. I think they actually invented the term hire for attitude. And if you've ever flown Southwest, they're a little bit different than most airlines. They tell jokes, they crack jokes at each other's expense. It's really personable types of presentations. And Delta has been investing in people, making it so that the crew gives you an impression that they're happy that they're flying with you today. And that really is shining through as far as the scores have gone. Well, Delta's been performing very well at a high level, and this year they broke through and won two of the three categories. So I think that's probably the biggest trend. It's not exactly new. We've seen that in the data in the last few years. One of the things that we've asked that's new this year is the media impact on people's trust with an airline. And we asked people if they saw any news stories in the previous 90 days about an airline prior to them flying, and then correlated that with their trust in the airline. And there's a really very high positive correlation with the type of stories that someone is reading about the airline and how they feel about the airline itself. So there is quite a bit of media influence in how people trust each of these particular airlines. And that was something that was really interesting to see throughout the year. Some of the other things are, NPS scores are still quite high. Most people like to, at least when they find out that I do the airline study at JD Power when I'm at a cocktail party or something, I usually get a recitation of what went wrong in the last time they flew on X airline and how could that possibly happen. But probably the vast majority of them, take a flight without any problems whatsoever. And most of the airlines have a very high positive net promoter score. That's they have more people promoting than the brand than detracting from them. And a lot of people don't feel that could be possibly true, but it actually is. There's only a few airlines, just a couple of airlines, who I won't name on this podcast, who have negative NPSs, but the rest of them have positive NPSs. So those are some of the things that came out of this year's airline study.
Well, as you say, that media impact can be really strong. We see a lot of stories around the holidays, usually when there are canceled flights, that sort of thing, of just very negative sentiment. So interesting to know that we're measuring that now.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea, we also have the 2024 hotel study coming out in the next couple of months. And I know you've been keeping your eyes on that data and looking at all of the trends we have to look forward to in the publish. Can you give us any insight into what's going on right now?
Yes, thanks, Sarah. So we are just wrapping up our final wave of the 2024 North American Hotel Guest Satisfaction Study, and those results will publish in July, as we normally do. And so we did just recently in April publish the data through Wave 3 to all of our subscribers. And we are seeing some interesting differences across the segments of hotels. So, for example, full service brands in luxury and upper upscale are holding steady in terms of as compared to 2020, our 2023 study, in terms of satisfaction. So, no real big change there. But when we look at limited service hotels, so limited service brands that are in the upscale, upper mid scale categories, there we are seeing just a kind of a slight decline actually in guest satisfaction compared to kind of where we ended up as our final score in 2023. And then with economy and budget brands, there's a big decline actually in satisfaction through wave 3 of 2024 compared to our 2023 results. So lots of, I think nuances with each one of these categories going on. I think around budget and economy hotels, I do think the value component is still kind of top of mind. I don't think, room rates really have not gone down after the highs of 2022 and 2023 post pandemic. But consumers are really starting to kind of look at that. Hey, what am I getting for the money? And in the budget and economy hotels category, right, those hotels really do not have a lot of amenities. They don't typically have a lot of staff. And I think consumers, are just looking at those room rates and sort of that value trade off there. But we will see kind of how things land after we complete this final wave. And we look forward to publishing the results in July.
Absolutely. That's always an exciting study. Andrea, just curious, are we seeing any sort of changes in demand over the summer as we're moving into summer travel months, or are things holding steady?
Yes. So some of what I've seen has, I think, some of the what the brands have reported about um, the summer coming up, or sort of, when we hear the earnings calls from the big hotel chains, they do kind of talk about their sort of forward thinking around the rest of the year. And it does seem like there is a little bit of kind of moderating leisure demand. Again, not as overwhelming, I think, for the industry as 2022 and 2023 kind of again coming out of the pandemic. But I think business travel, I have seen several articles and posts about transient business travel actually picking up. And that's good news. I think we've pushed off that prediction of when transient business travel will kind of get back to pre-pandemic levels. It's not there yet, but I've seen sort of anecdotal, reports that it's improving. Group travel, so meetings, conferences, conventions, that is looking pretty good for 2024. So that's also good news. Of course, the hotel industry really does rely on conferences and conventions. So it'll, I think the predictions are out there that there will be kind of very, very small growth in demand this year. We'll see if that plays out, but we're holding steady, I would say, are the two words that really describe what's happening in hotels.
Well, great to hear that we're having a little bit of recovery, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with these prices and with satisfaction when the study publishes in July. Well, now I would like to welcome a brand new guest to our podcast, Azari Jones, who joined the Travel and Hospitality Intelligence team about a year ago. And we're just getting her on the podcast for the first time. Azari, we're so happy you're here. Welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm so excited to be here with Michael and Andrea and to share a couple of things about what's going on over on the rental car side of the business.
Absolutely. Now, rental car is not something we've talked about too much previously on the podcast. So fill us in. What can we expect from this study and what would you highlight today?
Yeah, sure. So, great news is that we actually have redesigned the 2024 North American rental car satisfaction study. So that's great. We have a lot of great things coming down the pipeline. Something that people will notice will be that we have shortened the survey, so that's always great. We've updated dimensions and the index model, and then the biggest thing and most exciting thing is that we've actually transitioned from the 1 to 10 scale to a quarter perfect scale. And this is great because we have better data discrimination, and it'll make the user-friendly experience a lot better, the user experience a lot better. So we're excited to release that. We've also started measuring a couple of new brands that we're excited to bring on board. And yeah, we have a lot of great information and data coming down the pipeline. To start, we noticed a couple of things in the data, starting with vehicle quality being one of the highest rated attributes, and that shouldn't be surprising. But we also do notice that value and ease and convenience and staff interactions are just as important as well, still. So, a lot of great things for the rental car study to come later this year.
Very interesting. So I'm hearing staff. That's very similar to what we heard when Mike was giving his airline report, and even to some extent what Andrea was saying with hotels. So seems like your people are really a key in any of these studies. Does that feel about right?
Yeah, having staff interaction, having great staff, great customer service is always key, especially in our industry. That's not something that you can really take away. I like to think about hospitality as we don't have tangible goods, right? You can't take the car home, you can't take an airline home, you can't take a bed, the hotel room home. So people want the experience and the staff interaction to really matter.
And Azari, when can we expect the rental car study to publish? Is that a little later in this year?
Yes, in October of this year, the rental car study will be publishing.
Well, that does it for today's episode of the JD Power Travel and Hospitality Podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to Azari, Andrea, and Michael for being our experts today, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.